Okay, next slide, please. Okay, as you can see from here, we all familiar with the way that data leads to information, which then leads to knowledge. So you can see from this screen how we start with knowledge, which basically is the clinical guidelines and best practices. And then we step into information, which is the clinical pathways, and then step deeper into the data templates. And then we start to go back the other way to information again with the data sets and value sets. And then lastly to knowledge again. So you can see how the clinical side and the administrative side, specifically health information management, can all fit together, and how everything meets in the middle with the data that you need to go out to both sides. And here you can see how we have that kind of give you even a better picture, where we have the care delivery on the side there where we have the healthcare knowledge, and then everything leads into that. So we have the clinical documentation improvement, which includes the clinical pathways, the case definition templates, leading into quality data, and then stepping back around to data analytics, and then back to the healthcare knowledge. So this can be a continuing circle that you're always reviewing and changing. So you're always working with all three of those concepts, the data, the information, and the knowledge, to constantly be improving that care delivery for the patients, as well as the efficiency of the facility. Next slide, please. So here we kind of see that same concept again, where we have all the professional associations up on the top with the ADA, the AMA, ANA, AHA, AAP, and they have all the artifacts, which basically is the guidelines. So we have so they become the guideline manager, which then filters down to the practice manager, goes over to the data sources, and then back to data analytics, and back to the guideline manager. So again, we're constantly making that circle with knowledge, information, and data. And here we add on another layer, so you can see how, again, we start with those artifacts, and then we move into the clinical pathways and standard operational procedures. And then from the practice manager, we move into data capture templates, which leads us to the data sources, and then the decision support, which gives us the data analytics, and then to quality measures and the public health reports, which gives us the new knowledge, which leads us back to the beginning of the circle to continue our cycle again. So really, these are just huge cycles that keep going around and round as you can continue to improve. And you can really see how the documentation improvement is the big focus here. Next slide. This is a template of how we've developed a business case and a use case. So you can kind of see how there's each of the steps that you can follow and really create a business case and use case if you wanted to, using all these steps. So it makes it easy to say, okay, I want to create this use case, but how do I do it? So here's the template that you could actually use and see how everything all fits together. Next slide. So here we're taking a deeper dive into that. So you can see we have the business case on the top, and then depending on that business case, we can develop any use cases that are needed to support that business case. And then even a step down further, the realization scenarios and the technical use cases. So you can see how they all fit together, and how you have to have the first one and then step down into each of the other ones as you're developing these business cases. Next slide. This is an example of a use case using that template that we just saw that has been created. So you can see how we have the name, the business actors, technical actors, the flow of events, the precondition, postcondition, preferred timing, and then we have the data categories and data flow on the other side. So you can really see how each of this fits together and how it could actually be used as a process for an organization to start to put into place. Next slide. As I kind of mentioned, you can now we'll move into the fire resources, where you can see the whole list of different resources that are out there using fire. And you can use any of these to develop your use case depending on what you need for it. Next slide. So for our example here, we're actually going to choose the patient. So you can see how we really get into the details of that particular patient resource using fire that can be used in your use case to develop it into your model. Next slide. Now we kind of have a different view of everything that we're talking about. And this really makes me think of the quality control model that we're probably all familiar with, the Plan, Do, Check, Act, because we start with design, and then we develop it, we test it, we implement it, we evaluate, we deploy and operate it, and then you can go back and start again depending on the knowledge that you learn from your deploy and operate phase. So it's again, it's just a continuous process, and you're always checking to see how it can be improved. Next slide. Now again, I'm going to bring us back to the template that we spoke about earlier. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Orlova, and you'll actually see from our demonstrations how we've taken this template and actually made it into real life scenarios for our different use cases. Thank you, Anna.